Okay, thank you. Good evening, everyone. So I was just talking about, I was saying a recap of what we did yesterday. So yesterday we talked about, we explained the Excel environment and we did basic operations. We talked about using cell name instead of cell values for calculation. And we also learned some shortcuts in Excel. Uh, so as we progress, we'll learn a few more shortcuts that are essential. But today we'll be going into cell referencing. Um, so like the name implies, it's just about referencing a cell. There are different ways you can reference a cell. There are three basic ways. The two popular ways are relative reference and absolute reference. So most people don't know about the mixed reference. It's not very popular, but it's very important as well because it's not used most of the time. But there are times where you might need to use the mixed reference. So we have relative reference, absolute reference, and mixed reference. So I'll try to explain the relative and the absolute first. Would do some examples on that before we go into the mixed reference. Okay, for the relative reference, the formula, we've been doing relative reference since, so I'm going to show you. We've been doing it since yesterday, so I'll just show you why it's called a relative reference. So the formula, when you apply a formula into a cell, it changes when copied to another cell. That is, whenever you move the cell down, the same formula will apply, which is basically what we've been doing yesterday. Remember, if we do any addition or any calculation yesterday, we did some basic operations where we just find the first cell, we do the operation for the first cell, then when we double click on this, it just automatically does it for us, the remaining one. So that's what relative referencing is. It's depending on this value and other. So as we move down, if we drag this down, it will give us the rest. So it will reference the other ones and give us. So as we are moving down, it will be changing. Your answer will be changing as you are moving down because based on the remaining cells. So that's what relative referencing is. It means that if your reference is dependent on the others, as you are moving down, it's changing based on the other cells. That's why you see this answer will not be the same with this based on the values on these cells. So that's what relative referencing is about. We're still going to do more examples on that. Then we have the absolute reference. So in absolute reference now, this one, the answer is not, the formula does not change. The formula does not change. It's like you are going to lock the formula. It remains constant. So if you want to use, for example, one value, let me use percentage. You want to use a particular, you want to multiply by 100. You want to multiply a whole column by 100. So instead of typing in 100 one by one or creating a whole column and writing 100 repeatedly, you can now use the absolute reference. You write 100 somewhere, then you lock it. So when you lock it, that 100%, you can now use it on any cell of your choice. So I'm going to show you an example of that, and then so that you understand what I'm saying. First, I'll show you the relative reference, and then we'll go to the absolute reference. Let me just show you a basic example first before we do this table here. So first, let's say we have, we want to do an addition here. Just write, let's say we want to add 5,000 to these values here. So instead of, for relative reference, you have to now write the 5,000 here on a different column. What if you want to create a full column? Are you going to create a full column filled with 5,000? There's no need for that. So this is where you can use the absolute reference. For relative now, if you do this, you want to add 5,000 to these numbers here, you can just say the basic thing we learned equal to this cell plus this cell, press enter. So that's what you do. Then you double click. So that's the relative referencing. But what about the absolute? You don't need to create a column, wasting your space. And when you create too many columns that are not needed in Excel, to make your work slow, your Excel will become heavy. So instead of that, you can use the absolute reference. Instead of creating a column for just the same um repeated values, you can just write this 5,000 somewhere. Let me delete this. So you can write 5,000 up here and then reference it from there. So you say equal to 50 500,000 plus 5,000. Now, if we do this and say enter, it will give us the correct answer. But when we drag it down, it will start giving us wrong answers. You can see this is not correct. 60,000 plus 5,000 will not give you this amount. You can see what it's doing. It's adding B14 and 6 and C13, which is wrong. So it's not correct. So what we do here is we lock this cell, this particular cell in this formula that we have, this B13 plus C13. We're going to lock that 5,000. That's what the absolute referencing does. So when you lock it and you apply it down, it will continue to reference this 5,000. That's what it does. So how are we going to lock it? We're going to put a dollar symbol in front of the column and the row. Okay, so where you have this, instead of just saying equal to B13 plus C13, we're going to lock that plus, instead of saying B13 plus C12, we're going to lock this C12. Where you have C12, we're going to put the dollar sign in front of it. So you either put it manually, you press shift 4, put it in front of C, and then in front of 12, or you can just use the shortcut on your keyboard, F4. You can look for F4. When you just press F4, it will automatically apply it for you. For some systems, some does not. I think my own does not have it, so I'm going to have to apply it manually. Well, for your system, you can try it. Just press F4 and then it will show. So when you have B13 plus this C12, now these dollar signs, it means that I've locked this 5,000 here. Meaning this formula, even if I drag it down, it will continue to reference that 5,000 because it's an absolute value. So if I press enter to give me the same answer, now if I drag it down to give me the correct answers. So 60,000 plus 5,000 is 65,000. And then 10,000 plus 5,000 is 15,000. So if I put it here now, you can see it's referencing that B14 plus C12. It's still referencing this C12 here because I've locked it with that dollar sign. You can see that. So that's where the absolute referencing is very important. Okay. Any questions before I go into the mixed referencing? If you want me to repeat this, please, you can go ahead so I can repeat it. If you want me to repeat it, please.
Please repeat.
Hello?
Please
What?
repeat.
Okay. So what I'm saying is that the relative reference is basically, let me show you do you understand the relative reference, or I should just start with the absolute?
Yes, I do. Just the absolute.
So the absolute is like you're locking a value. Okay, you're locking the value, particular value that you want to multiply or add or do anything, just one. Maybe this column is filled with numbers that you want to add a number to, or you want to multiply a particular number to. Instead of creating a column for that number, you can just write the number somewhere at the top or by the side, anywhere in the Excel worksheet. Then you can reference that number from there in your formula. So when you're doing your formula, when you're writing your formula, you can reference that number, that particular number from there. So here we say equal to, just basically what you want to do with the number. If you want to add, multiply, whatever, it's the same thing you do. So you say 500,000. Here we want, but what we're going to do now to lock this 5,000 is to put a dollar sign in front of C. C is the column, and then we put a dollar sign also in front of 12. 12 is the row. So this C, when we drag it down, it will, the formula will apply to that 5,000 will still apply to other rows so that it doesn't change. Because it's only relative, it's relative reference that changes. Absolute reference does not change. It locks that value down. So if you want to do something that you don't want to change the value, you don't want the values to change as you're scrolling down, then you should use the absolute referencing. So we're going to, if you want to apply that front of the cell name that the absolute value is that you want to lock, and then press F4 on your system. Most system, it works for most systems, but if it doesn't work for your own, you manually put the dollar sign. So Shift 4, I'm going to put my own manually because it doesn't work for me. The F4 doesn't work for me. And then press enter. So this is now 500,000 plus 5,000 has given me this. So if I drag this down, you see it will add this to this. So if I put my cursor here now on this 65,000, you see the formula up here. You can see it's referencing that 5,000. You can see this blue is on 60,000 and this red is on 5,000. So it's referencing that 5,000 up there. So that's what the absolute referencing does, so that you don't have to waste space creating a column with the same number. It doesn't, it's not neat. It doesn't make sense like that. Understand? I don't know how to put it. But if you are an expert in Excel, like it doesn't work that way. It will even make your work slow because your Excel will be to be heavy. There's no need to be creating columns that you can avoid. Okay. So from here, do you understand? Can I continue with the mixed?
Yes, yes. You can continue.
Okay, so let's do that here first, then we'll now go into the mixed referencing. So here we're going to find the total of all of this here. So we'll say equal to, I've not taught you a function, the sum function. We'll do that next, but until then, we're going to use this auto sum up here. So this auto sum basically adds up all of these values here. Okay, so Excel, like I said, Excel understands patterns. So when you say equal to and you click on this auto sum, it will understand that you want to add the values that are in row 5 horizontally. So let's say this, click on this arrow down and say sum equal to sum. What's the problem? Okay, so you click on auto sum and then it will highlight all of these values and give you the answer. So just press enter and to give you the answer. So I want to find the total of all these values. So this is basically relative referencing. This basically relative referencing is adding all these values together to give you this. So this one, this value here is dependent on all of this, on the addition of all these values. So for me to now reference the others, I don't need to start adding one by one. I just need to double click here and it will automatically give me the values. This is a relative reference. It's referenced, you can see the values are changing as I'm going down based on these values. So if I put my cursor here, it will, you can see the formula here now. It has added B6 to E6. So basically, it has added B6, which is this one, to E6. If I put it here on 620,000, it has added B7 to E7. So that's relative referencing. It's the same thing. It's what it did here that it will just do. So it's from here, you can see it added this to this. So it will just apply the same thing and add others. But then we want to find the percentage. The percentage for the total percentage for this values here. The percentage total. For us to do that, we use the formula. We need to find the total here, the grand total of all this, because we are going to use it to find the percentage. Okay, so we'll put our cursor here. Here, I want to find the grand total here. Then again, you go to auto sum up here, click on auto sum, and it will sum up all of these values for you. F5 to F8, press enter. So this is the sum of the values. Now for us to find the percentage total for each, we need to now divide, say, this value divided by this value, then we multiply by 100. Okay, so we say equal to this value divided by this. Press enter. 44%. So it's even on percentage already. If it's not on percentage, it will show you 0.444. So you'll be the one to change it to percentage. You can just come here and click percentage on your system. So it will change it there for you. So when you drag this down, you can see it's not giving you the correct answer there. The reason is because it's I'm supposed to use an absolute reference for that instead of a relative reference. So if I want to use a relative reference here, it won't work. That's why it's giving me these values. That's why it's giving me these values. So if you put your cursor here now, you see, okay, this is F5 divided by F9. You can see it here. F5, which is this, the one on blue, divided by F9. Now, if I put it on the second one here, sorry. If I put it here on this one, you see it's F6 divided by F10. Now, there's nothing here on F10. This is because it's applying the relative reference, so it's moving. It's not supposed to move. I want to lock it so that it doesn't move, because I want to only reference this total, this grand total here. But if I want to leave it like this, it will be moving down. If I put it here now, it will show F11. So it will be going down to F12, and it will be giving me wrong values. But I want to lock this total here because I want to apply only this in the formula. So I want this to be F5 to divided by F9. I want this one to be F6 divided by F9. Okay, I want this to be F7 divided by F9 because this is where the grand total is. So I have to lock this grand total. So from here, I'll put my cursor here and then correct it. So I would put my dollar sign in front of F and then put it in front of 9. Or I'll simply press F4 on my keyboard. Hello, sorry, I think my network went off. Don't know why. Can you guys hear me now, please? Hello?
We can hear you. I can hear
Yes,
you.
I can hear you. We can hear you now.
Okay, so okay, did you get the last explanation I did on percentage? Because I think my network went off.
I think your network went off. You were about to say something about using F4 if you have it on your keyboard.
Oh, okay, okay. Yes, so I was saying that you can use F4 to reference to do the absolute referencing, or you can just apply the dollar sign manually in front of the column and in front of the row number. So I applied it in front of F and in front of 9. So when you do that and
Sorry,
you drag it down, you get the answers. Yeah, go ahead.
sorry. If you're using F4 in front of your keyboard, would you use F4 in front of the F and the 9 as well? That's the column and the row. Or will you just use
No, no, no.
F4?
You choose one. If you just press F4, you put it in front of the F9, press F4, it will automatically put the dollar signs for you. But for
Okay,
some computers, it doesn't work, so that you need to input it manually.
okay, okay. Thanks.
Yes. Okay. Any other questions? Is there any other question?
I think someone asked a question. I don't know if it came up as a message, but I'm not sure if you saw it.
Okay. So if you are not using the dollar sign to lock the cell value, at what point do you use F4 as an alternative? Do you simply click on the cell, then press F4? Okay, Muideen, I don't know if he's here. He's gone off. He said I answered already. Thank you. So yes, when you want to use F4, just put it in front of the cell that you want to lock, the cell name you want to lock, you wish to lock, then you press F4 and the dollar signs will automatically appear there, or you manually input it in front of the column and in front of the row, like I did. Okay, so next we'll be going into the mixed referencing. So this mixed referencing, people don't use it that much as they use relative and absolute referencing, but there are instances where you might need to use it, so it's good to know how to use it. So it is a type of absolute reference in which either your row or column is locked. So it will require you to lock either your row or your column depending on what you are doing. Okay, so I'm going to show you an example based on that. So what if your boss says that, okay, I want you to present these values to me in percentages. I don't want it to be in naira. I want you to present it to me in percentages. So I'm just going to copy these values, Control C, Control V, and paste it there so that we can use it to explain the mixed referencing. So in the mixed referencing, you can either lock the column or the row. So in this case, you don't need to lock, unlike this one that we locked both the column and the row. In this case, you don't need to lock both. You can lock only one. The one that you need to lock is the one that you would lock. So here we want to change these values to percentages instead of numbers. So we're going to divide it by the total. Okay, we're going to divide this 90,000 divided by the total, divided by this total, and then would click on the percentage to change it to percentage for us. So let's just try it out here. We're going to be using this first table to do that. That's why I copied it out. Okay, so put it here and say equal to, so this 90,000 here, click on it, divided by the total, this one, enter. Okay, so I'm going to change all of this to, I'm going to change it to numbers instead of naira. So let me delete this. Okay, so you can see, so I did 90,000 divided by this value, this total here for the laptop. So 90,000 divided by this, it gave me this. I want to find percentage. I'll just simply click on percentage to convert it to percentage. So that's 8%. Okay, 8% of the total value. So this is 8% of the total value here. Okay, so what I'll do now is I want to drag it to the side so that it will give me the other answers. So you can see now there's a problem. It's not giving me the other answer. So what you do, if you want to master Excel very well, the first thing you do is that you check your formula first and see where the problem is. So when you, since you know this is correct, B5 divided by F5, then you put it here and then you say, you can see now here is saying C5 divided by G5. Now, I don't want to divide it by G5. Okay, I want to divide it by this F5. I want it to be constant on F5. Do you understand? So when you put it here, you can see the error G5. This one is saying H5. This one is saying I5. That's because it's using the relative reference to calculate it for you. But I don't want you to use the relative. I want you to use the absolute. I want the formula. I want all of these to be divided by the total. I want all these 90,000, all these values to be divided by this total. So I need to lock this total down. Okay, so now I'll come back here to this 8% and then I'll put my cursor there and put the dollar sign there in front of F and in front of 5. Press enter. So this time around, when I drag it to the side, it will now give me the correct answers that I want. So this is 43% of the total value. This is 26% of the total and 24% of the total and 8% of the total. So I can still do the auto sum here and to give me the total, but I don't want to do that now. Okay, so what if I want to now copy it down? I want to drag this down for it to give me the answers. Mobile phone. Now, you can see, if I just drag it down, many of you will assume, okay, it's correct. These answers are correct, but they are not. If I put it on 17% now and I see the formula, it's saying B6 divided by F5 divided by F5 in absolute reference. Now, where's F5? Let's see. F5 is this amount, this 1.1 million. But I don't, this 1.1 million is for the laptop. I want to do it for the mobile phone. So you can see that these answers are, they are calculating based on this total so that you don't send wrong answers or wrong values to your boss. You have to double check. So this calculation now, after dragging it down, is still calculating based on this total up here. Okay, it's still calculating based on the total up there. Just a second, please. Yes, so it's still calculating based on the total up there. So I want it to calculate based on this amount here, this 810,000 for the mobile phones. So I can either change all of this to F As this F6, or we can apply a different formula for this. Let's see. Let me try something. Okay. Okay. Control Z. So what I'm going to do now is that I'm going to use the mixed referencing. The mixed referencing is that either you lock a row or a column. So in this case, I want to lock the rows. Sorry, I want to lock the column because the columns are changing. No, the column is the same. I want to lock the rows, sorry. So you have 5, 6, 7, 8. So I want you to calculate based on each row, but I want to leave the column constant. I want to leave the column constant. I want to lock the row. So let's try that and see. So starting from this 8% now, I want to lock the row. So I'm going to remove this dollar sign from the F. I'll leave the column there. Let it just be on F. Then I'll lock the row and say enter. So if I drag this to the side, just a second. I think it's the other way around. Let's try this. Okay, sorry. I'll lock the column. It's the column I'll lock and leave the row. So let's try it and see if it will give us the correct answers for this. Okay. Yes, it did. It gave us the correct answers. So I'll explain it again so you understand. Sorry. Okay, so the mixed reference is that you either lock a column or a row depending on the one you want constant and the ones that are moving. So here in this case now we are locking the column F because it's we want it to be constant, and then the rows are moving. Since we are going to be moving from laptop to mobile phones to iPad and then to earpiece, we're going to leave that unlocked. We're going to leave that unlocked and we're going to lock only this column F because we don't want it to be moving. So here we're going to put the dollar sign on the column F and then leave the row 5 to move because it's a relative reference and it's going to be moving from laptop to mobile phone. It's going to be changing. So we want that one to be moving there, but want to lock this column, the F column. So we're going to apply the dollar sign on F and leave the 5 empty. So when you drag it, you see it will still give you the same answer. So this time around, when you drag it down, it will give you the correct values, the correct answers that you need. So here you can now add all of this if it's necessary. Since you are finding percentages, there's no need to find them grand total and all of this. So this is what this is in this cases like this that you can use the mixed reference. You don't use the mixed reference most of the time, just in few cases where you need to lock one and leave the other one to move. It's in those cases that you can use the mixed reference. Most of the time, you usually use the absolute reference and the relative reference. So do you want me to go over it again, or?
I just have a question. So just that is does that mean that the mixed reference is just a combination of absolute and
Relative, yes.
relative? Okay. That's it.
Yes. So it's either you are locking only one, either the column or the row. If you are locking both, is an absolute reference. If you are not locking any one, is a relative reference. If you are locking either one, is a mixed reference. You
Okay,
get?
thanks. Yes.
Okay, any other question? Any other question? Francisca, Florence, Eze, Muideen. Do you have any question? Let me check. Okay, since there are no questions, let me continue. So next, I said we're going to be filling up this file here. So I have this file with me. It's like a restaurant file where we have the product ID, we have the dates, the product, the quantity, cost of goods, and then we have the tax, which is 7%. This one is the tax incurred in the cost price, and then the total cost price after tax. Then we have the selling price, and then the tax of the selling price. Then we have the total selling price, which is revenue, profit. So we're going to do all of this calculation now. Yes, so in this case now, where we have 7% up here, we'll be using the absolute referencing to calculate 7% of this. Okay, so this is where the absolute referencing is important. You don't need to type 7% all through. All you have to do is to just put it up here and then reference it from there. Okay, so here we have equal to 7%, or we can say 2,000 times this 7% here. Press enter. So this is the tax for our cost price. So when we double click on this to give us the rest, I'm supposed to lock it. You can see the mistake. If you don't lock that 7%, it's giving you stupid answers. You can see the answer is giving me is very wrong. So I'm supposed to lock it. So equal to, because this 7% is an absolute value. So I'm supposed to lock it equal to 2,000 times 7%. So I'm supposed to put the dollar sign there on G2. Put the dollar sign in front of G and the dollar sign in front of 2. Press enter. Why is it still giving me these wrong values? Okay, so let me, okay, yes, it's correct now. So these are the tax, for the cost of goods, for the selling, for the cost price. So this is F3, which is 2,000. I just did for this first one, 2,000 times this 7%, and I locked the 7% there. So when you double click, it will give you the correct values for others. Okay, so we'll move to the next one now. This is the total cost price. This one is the addition of this cost of goods plus this tax. So we say equal to 2,000 plus this value. Press enter. So you have it there. Then when you double click here to give you the remaining value. Now me, I don't want all of these values to be having this 0.00. So I want to change the number formats. This is just me. I want to remove the decimal points and then say okay. Yes, I just want it to be this way. Okay. So now let's find 7% of the selling price is equal to 3,000 times this 7%. And then let's put our dollar sign. Don't forget our dollar sign in front of J and in front of 2. Press enter. So it gives us the percent, the tax. Then we double click here and it gives us for the rest value. Okay. So next we have the total sales price, which is the revenue that we got from our business. So we'll say the selling price plus the tax, everything, that's the total revenue. So we'll say equal to this plus this, enter. Then we double click, gives you the rest. And then finally, we have the profits. Finally, we have the profits. So the profit is the revenue minus the cost of goods, the total, the TCP. So it's the TSP minus the TCP, that's the profit. So we say equal to TSP, which is this, minus TCP is this one. Press enter. So this is our profit. Just double click here, and then it gives us our profits. So next, they want us to find the profit margin. The profit margins formula is the revenue minus the profits divided by the revenue. Okay, the revenue minus the profits divided by the revenue. So we have equal to this revenue minus our profits is this, divided by the revenue. Okay, but if you are using this formula, you have to apply BODMAS here so that it doesn't calculate this division first before the subtraction. So we'll put this one in brackets so that to calculate it correctly for you. Put it in brackets. So we want this one to subtract it first before dividing it by the revenue. Okay, so that's why we'll put it in brackets. Otherwise, it will use the BODMAS and do the division before coming to the subtraction. So press enter. So this is our profit margin. So we'll change it to percentage. Just click on percentage, and then you have percent. Or we can leave it like this. Just leave it like this. We can do the percentage later over here. So here we can reduce this. I want to reduce the decimal to only 2 decimal value. So reduce it to 2 decimal, and then we'll double click. Okay, so this is the profit margin, and then the percentage for this, we can now say, okay, we can write 100 here, and then come here and say equal to 0.67 times this 100. Now we're going to lock this 100 because it's an absolute value. It's an absolute value. If you don't lock it and you drag it down, it will give you wrong answers. Like the way it was giving me wrong answers here, it will do the same here. So you need to lock it. Since this 100 is going to be the only value you want to use to multiply the other cells, so you have to lock it. So we're going to put the dollar sign there in front of n and in front of 2. Press enter. So I want to reduce this I want to reduce the decimal. Number. So we can just put it here. So this is this is our percentage margin. Since you have your percentage sign here, you don't have to put it down here. So it will not be like you are repeating. But if you want to apply the percentage and you want it here, then you can do that by just clicking on percentage, by copying this, putting it here and clicking on percentage. But if you have your percentage sign here at the top in your header, it's not advisable to put percentages here again. Okay, it makes your work rough. Also, if you are dealing with currency and you
Um,
have naira up here. Hello, is somebody talking?
yes, sorry. I'm so sorry. I mean, if it seemed like I'm dragging everybody back,
No
but I
problem.
was just wondering, so when you were calculating the profit margin, I'm assuming that that wasn't absolute referencing, right? That was relative.
This one?
Yeah, yeah,
Yes,
just
that was
just-
relative.
oh, so that
Yeah.
was why you didn't need to lock in any value.
No, no, no.
Oh,
I didn't
okay.
lock in any value. Yes, I just applied the formula for calculating profit margin, which
Okay.
is yes,
And then
which
so
is
that formula goes all the way down to
down.
what of the other. Okay. I think that
Yes, the
all
formula
right.
goes all the way down. So I'm just trying to give you guys tip on presenting your work on Excel. So if you are going to write percentage up here in your header, there's no need to be writing it here. It will just make your work look a bit rough. If you are going to write, same thing with currency. If you are going to write a currency up here, maybe naira or dollar, you can just write the values. You don't have to start writing naira here up and down. So like here now, cost of goods, I can just write in brackets, put the naira symbol there or here or all of this so that I don't need to be writing naira here. When you start seeing naira and currency, it makes your work rough. So since I'm putting the percentage here up here, so that's why I use this absolute reference. I put the 100 here so I can just multiply each of these value with this 100 and I locked it. Okay, and I locked it so it will apply to others. Basically, I was just trying to say that if you don't want to create a second column for percentage margin, you can actually do it from here by just clicking on this and clicking on the percentage sign and to change it to percentage for you. So you just double click down, it's the same. So you know these answers now are the same with this. They are both the
Okay.
same thing. Yes. So, but I don't want it this way. I want to have my profit margin separately from my percent. Okay. So, what was I saying? Yeah, so I'm going to give you guys just a simple assignment to just fill up. Is what we've done, the same thing, just to be sure, just for you guys to practice, because I know some of you will not have time to practice. So if I give the assignment, you have a reason to practice. So it's the same thing, is what we've done today. I'll just give you the file without all of this, then you just fill it up. You just fill it up on your own. So since there's time, I'm going to move further. So we're going to be going into some basic functions here. So these are basic and very important functions that we need to know about in Excel. So I'm going to start with the okay, first off, I want to teach you guys how to freeze a pane. Like, do you guys know how to do it? Because it's very important too. Some people used to ask that question. If you want to freeze, maybe you want to freeze your row, the first row, and you want to freeze a number of columns and a number of rows, you can do that by coming to the view here, where you have view, okay, you see freeze panes. So here I can freeze, when you click on the arrow down, you see freeze panes, you see freeze top row, and then you see freeze first column. Okay, so here you can freeze both rows and columns together. While this one, you can only freeze the top row. And then this, you can only freeze the first column. So if I click on this freeze first column, you can see this straight line here. So no matter how I move to the side, that first column that has the product ID will be locked. Okay, so if I come back here and I say freeze top row, that's freeze my headers for me. So no matter how far I go down, the top rows will be locked. Now, what if I want to freeze both rows and column, and I want to freeze more than one row and more than one columns? So let's unfreeze first. Then we'll go back to what you do is, if I want to freeze these 2 rows now, I have 2 rows up here that I want to freeze, and I want to freeze maybe, let's say a let's say I want to freeze A, B, C, D down to the products, okay, and I want to freeze the top 2 rows. So this is what I'm going to do. So after these 2 products, the next row after it, which is row 3, I want to freeze these 2. The third row, I'm going to count 1, 2, 3, 4, which is the number of columns I want to freeze. Then come to the next column, which is column E. So now I'm going to be working with column E3. I put my cursor here. I'll click on column E3. Okay. This is like the intersection after the 2 after the rows and columns that I want to freeze. I want to freeze row 1 and 2, and I want to freeze column A to column D. So I'm going to put it here in this intersection. Then I'm going to come down here to freeze and say freeze panes. So when I freeze my panes, that's freeze. You can see this thick line here and this one. So it has freezed the those number of columns for me and the number of rows for me. So I can be doing my work, and these rows, I'll still be seeing my top rows, the rows that I need, and I'll still be seeing my columns that I need. Is that understood?
Sorry, could you go back like
Okay,
like 1 or 2 steps, please?
no problem. So I'm going to come back here and unfreeze. So if I want to freeze now, there are 3 options here. The first one is to freeze panes. Second one is to freeze your top row. If I want to freeze only row 1, I'll click on this. If I want to freeze column 1 as well, I'll click on this last one. But what if I want to freeze both row and column, and I don't want to freeze just one of them? Because if I click on freeze top row, it will freeze that top row for me. But if I come back and say, okay, let me freeze first column, it will unfreeze that top row and then freeze only the first column for me. But what if I want to freeze both? I want to freeze both rows and column. So I'm going to, let me make it easy before I even move to a step further. So this is the first row that I want to freeze, and this is the first column that I want to freeze. So if you want to freeze this row, go to the next row after the row that you want to freeze. Click on that one, okay? And then you want to freeze column A. The next column after column A is column B. Come down here and intersect it here. This point where this intersects after the first row that you want to freeze and the first column that you want to freeze. This cell is the intersect after that. So you want to freeze, put your cursor there, click on it, okay, and then say freeze panes. So when you click on freeze panes, it will freeze the top row, which is the row above this intersect. Is freezed, and if I go to the side, okay, this first column will follow me everywhere I go to be freezed. So depends. Now this is just one row and one column that are freezed. What if I want to freeze more than one row and one column? Maybe I want to freeze you want to freeze. Go to explain this freezing of panes again. I don't know if you guys got it before the,
Yeah,
went
for
on.
me, I think it's clear now. I'm not sure if
Okay.
others know. Yeah.
Okay, is it clear for everybody, or do you want me to repeat it? Hello, is it clear for everyone? Okay. Okay, I'll assume it's clear. So next,
So Fatima, I was just thinking, considering your very poor network tonight and the fact that we are slightly over the hour, would you consider we maybe continue next time or something?
yeah, it's fine. It's totally fine. I've actually covered my topic for today. Yes, so I'm going to send you the assignments to the WhatsApp group, and then I'll send you a link where you can submit it. It's basically what we've done. It's just for you to repeat it, just as a form of practice for everyone, and also for me to get your attendance, so that even if I want to, I can start preparing your certificate based on your name from your attendance. So it's important to do the assignments. Okay, so yes, so to next week we'll be going into functions. We'll do more on then we'll be going to sum, average, and all of that. Those functions, they are interesting. So since the network is logging me off, we can call it a night. Right, everybody?
Yes, this is fine.
All
Thank you
right.
so much, Fatima. Yeah.
Thank you, Muideen. Thank you, Francisca,
Thank
Abigail,
you.
Florence, Mariam. Thank you, everybody.
All right.
All right, good night. Night.
Good night.
Hello, Fatima.
Yeah, hello?
Yeah, the assignment, will you be dropping it on the group or here?
I'll drop it on the group. I'll drop
Oh,
it on the group. Yes.
because I didn't even join it, so I'll have to just go through it and then
No
be able to do it.
problem. No problem.
All right.
No problem.
Thank you.